Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Nerd Soup. I am Beau Oliver, joined here today with Aaron, the Nerd Soup Monkey, and we are back to review Ahsoka. Well, technically, it's Star Wars Ahsoka, which is the latest show taking place in the Star Wars universe from Disney+, starring the character that goes back to the 2003 animated movie, the first Clone Wars production, and then the show followed that. So, have you ever seen that animated film?
I've watched sporadically, not the movies, but through the series, and watched a lot of clips.
Well, the movie, when it came out, it was considered to be one of the worst movies ever made, and Ahsoka's character was panned. People found her to be very annoying, and the writing it was very much a snappy, wisecracking sidekick. It was very generic, and then the series did flesh her out through her relationship with Anakin, and I'm sure you've seen some of the duels and the fights and stuff like that. Yeah, I've watched a lot of
YouTube clips of Clone Wars and Rebels, but never really sat down and watched it throughout, which I think probably would have benefited this series because it did seem like a more of a Rebels series or a sequel than an Ahsoka series.
Oh, yeah, definitely. When people were saying these are the episodes of Rebels you should watch if you don't get a chance to watch the entire series. Well, we'll get into that as we review the show because people were saying that would benefit you going into it. I don't necessarily agree with that because I've seen Clone Wars. I haven't seen Rebels, but I've watched some of the big scenes, some of the big moments. I know the characters. I know Ezra. I know Sabine and Ezra's Jedi mentor. I can't remember his name right now. So I got the gist of it. I don't think having that knowledge is going to make up for the flaws in this series.
Well, yeah, I mean, being a fan of Rebels or watching Rebels, I mean, I'm sure it helps and you have more investment going into, but viewing a series in a vacuum and just going into it, I mean, knowledge or not, if a series is good, it's going to be good, and if it's bad, it's going to be bad. And I think this was kind of a mixed bag for me, leaning towards, I don't know, because I think seeing the reactions online, you have the, big Rebels, big Star Wars fans who were loving a lot of the stuff that was happening and kind of things they wanted to see and things they could connect from the show. And you have other Star Wars fans that are just, you hear the groan through the tweet where it's just more of this stuff, more of these forced inclusions to be to bring back old characters, where I think a lot of Star Wars fans want to see kind of new things. And I'm in the camp, I'm in a weird place where I do have those grown moments, but then I'm this is actually kind of cool. I like seeing Anakin back. So it's kind of hard for me to decipher what side I'm not on here. But that aside, I don't know. I just kind of wish I felt like the series or the season was just lacking story-wise. And introducing these characters in live action. Obviously, we've seen Ahsoka before, but I feel like we really didn't get much with that character. And yes, maybe if you followed her journey throughout all the years, it could have been a proper transition to where she is now. But you got to understand, a lot of people are going into it without maybe not knowing what's going on, and I don't think they did a good enough job really introducing this character to a new audience and bringing it into a life where I can see people being oh yeah, who is this character? I want to know more about her, and maybe go back and watch some of the animated stuff.
Yeah, I'm definitely someone who approaches Star Wars as I'm not trying to have this deep dive into what are the problems with Star Wars. How can we fix Star Wars? Because it's almost like rooting for a sports team. You go into it every year thinking we got a chance this year, and then they disappoint you.
Yeah.
And it's when you look back on the evidence, Star Wars' average for movies that are considered good is not great. For movies that are considered masterpieces, it's even lower, or just shows, productions, whatever it is. So you have to take it with a grain of salt. If it's good, I'm going to enjoy it. If it's not, I won't. But I'm not going to get into this whole Star Wars is dead. This is where Star Wars needs to go. It's one of the many franchises that I enjoy. If it's good, it's good. If it's not, it's not. I'm not going to lose my mind. I'll tell you what, this may be my least favorite Star Wars thing ever.
Really?
To me, it's down there with the worst because it's just so bland. And I said this to you. I feel like there are no characters, especially Ahsoka, as the main characters, with any urgency. Everything is this cliche dialogue. It feels like a video game cutscene. I'm going to say something cool, then you're going to say something cool. There's no tension. There's never people talking over each other. There's no anger or fear in these moments, and especially Ahsoka's character. There is no urgency whatsoever for anything she's doing. She's got the galaxy hanging in the balance based on what she's told us. Thrawn could come back. That would be a horrible thing. Couldn't tell it by looking at her.
And why is that a horrible thing? Who is Thrawn? Like, I understand you do.
Yeah.
But like, and I do have knowledge of Thrawn. Like, I've read things, I've watched YouTube videos throughout the years. Like, I know who this character is, but also, again, going back to it, like, set the stage for your own series. Let's build some tension here. And yeah, there's a lot of like side-eyeing the people, like, oh, you, like, like, you know, from how they interact and how they speak to each other, they know each other, but they never, that never resonates off the screen.
Right.
So they just tell you that they've been through a lot.
Yeah.
We never really get the sense from what is shown that they have been.
And I also don't hate the, Ezra went missing and he's really important to us. It's like, oh, okay, that's cool. I like that. There was a pass with this character. He was, seemingly very important to them, the way that they speak about him. And he's the MacGuffin. He's the thing that we need to find. He's the driving force of the story, of the narrative. But it is just the execution for me. And missing out on that information, yeah, I guess for some people, if they would have seen what Thrawn had done in the past, some of his feats, as we like to call it, how evil is he actually compared to Palpatine and some of the Sith that we've seen in the Star Wars universe, or just some of the typical bad guys. But yeah, not coming in with that information and then seeing what Thrawn does in the show when he does show up, I can't imagine anybody found that character to be as cool as people did when he was in books or in some of the shows causing a ruckus. This wasn't really causing a ruckus. This was just, and this is what he normally does. He stands around and he outwits people. He's very clever. He's a master strategist. And there were some moments where I was like, okay, Thrawn, I see you, cooking up some plans here. But I think Lars Mikkelsen, they brought him over from Rebels because he voices the character, and bringing him to live action. People didn't like the way he looked. I mean, he looks like a blue guy to me. It is what it is. But yeah, there's no real threat. And people keep saying, rest in peace to Ray Stevenson. They're talking about how he's the one who gave the best performance in the show. And I think that is true, but I don't think it's a good performance, and that it's nothing to do with him. I think that's the writing. Like, yeah, he's making the most out of this really basic, lazily written dialogue because he's just got a presence to him. He's a big guy. He's got the great accent. He looks like a conflicted villain. Well, but even he couldn't elevate that material beyond anything that made me enjoy it.
I did like the two mercenary characters. I thought they, like you said, like there is a history there, and you always weren't sure what they were truly about. Like they gave me a sense that like it's not just evil Sith. Like they have some complexities to them where like, they respect the order, and they've said that multiple times throughout. Like they're not just your prototypical evil bad Sith guys. And I think they could have done more, especially with the character of Shin. Towards the end, they were kind of trying to prop her up to be, I guess, something, a bigger presence in the future, I guess, season. I don't know. I don't even know where they go from here, because it did.
If you put a gun to my head, I cannot tell you what they were trying to do this season. I mean, I guess it's because I've moved on to other things since watching the finale, but what were they doing? What was he doing? He was trying to find the three, they find that monument to the physical manifestations of the Force, the good, the bad, and the in between.
He's still on that planet.
Yeah, he's just on that planet.
They just left him.
Yeah, they just left him.
Yeah, I feel bad for Shin. She has no friends. Just hanging out with these weird trooper guys.
The zombie troopers? First of all, that action was framed horribly.
The choreography was terrible.
Terrible. Well, and if anybody ever complains about The Last Jedi choreography again and not complaining about this, come on, dude. I'll take disappearing knives and people in the background doing ridiculous flips that don't do anything over this any day of the week. This was terrible. And it's also like a lightsaber is the best weapon you can have to go against a zombie. So I wasn't like, whoa, how are they going to stop these guys?
Unless you're Sabine, she should just stick to being a Mandalorian. Terrible Jedi.
What do you think about that? That, if you just really try hard, you can have the Force participation trophy generation.
She was terrible. I wouldn't take her as an apprentice. Just be a Mandalorian at that point.
Yeah. And I guess
when she was being a Mandalorian, she was doing damage. Every time she tried to do some Jedi shit, she was just like, all right, stop doing that.
Yeah, it was holding her off. I'm so good with these guns and all this other Mandalorian tech. Let me just try and be a Jedi. You're not a Jedi, Sabine.
Yeah, I didn't really like that character. I don't think it was a great performance, and I feel like it was just the dynamics between her and Ahsoka. I think that stems back to just the Ahsoka characters being just so bland. It's like they never really played off. when they were with Ezra, I feel like there was better chemistry and allowed her to expand more as a character. But
Yes.
before that, it seemed like they were laboring through the scenes. And while watching it, it definitely resonates. I don't know if I ever had like a lot of fun watching this show. And I feel like at the end of the day, even like bad Star Wars, I can still like have some fun with. Like I had fun during Rise of Skywalker at points, even though that movie kind of sucks.
Oh yeah, there's a sort of kinetic energy in Rise of Skywalker. It's moving at its own pace. It's moving towards something. Unfortunately, that something is terrible. But here, there's no momentum in any of those scenes or episodes that carries over.
I mean, I was intrigued in some aspects of it, like just kind of building this part of the world, I guess, that is sort of away from the main Skywalker saga when you talk about everything that was happening in Clone Wars and Rebels and getting into some of those things. But other than that, there was really nothing that was really drawing me in except maybe the Anakin stuff. And that's where I kind of flip-flop on whether, like, why are we doing this? Why are we shoehorning Anakin into this? Which I don't think it's as egregious as some people on the internet make it out to be, being that Ahsoka's connection to Anakin is one that's spanned decades in this universe, and I think it is a valid inclusion. But nothing really came from that moment. Like, it was cool to see her with Anakin.
What was she learning? Did Ahsoka learn anything this season? Was there any development or change in her character? There was none. Right?
She's always on the same plane.
Doing the whole confronting the past thing, you're more like your master than you let on. But there wasn't a moment where she ever lost herself to her anger and we see, oh, okay, there's some Anakin. I'm with the people on the internet who thought it was, what did you call it? How did you word it? You worded it so perfectly.
Shoehorned?
Shoehorned in, yeah. Or that it's a monumental catastrophe. Is that what those were the words you used?
But
I'm not getting so upset over it, but it made me roll my eyes because, as you said, nothing really came out of it.
C-3PO made me roll my
that was so much better.
No, I think that's worse.
He comes in, Princess Leia helping out. That was one of the only moments I actually liked. Nice little note from Princess Leia. Hey, back the fuck off. I still run this bitch. C-3PO was like, yeah, that's my girl. You want to go through her? You got to go through me. And R2, where's R2? Where's Nash for the R2 impression? I think but it felt like, oh man, people were asking for a live action Clone Wars movie for so many years because Hayden Christensen was, he still looks like he could play that Anakin. And it's like, here it is. And a little too late for me. And also, like you said, nothing came out of it. I've seen Anakin do things,
Yeah, but badly. Now he's like kind of.
I like him in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
It was just weird to me because there was so much of it throughout the season. There were so many member berries, or callbacks, flashbacks. It was too much. It got in the way of making your own show, where this could have been a really fun, similar to Mandalorian, adventure of the week, or a narrative that carries over of somebody who's not a Jedi, but they are a Jedi and they're out there in the wild doing shit and helping people and, doing Jedi things.
Yeah.
And I think they were trying to, sorry to cut you off, do like an Obi-Wan Kenobi. She's the wise master. She's seen it all. So that's how she carries herself. But even in that first Star Wars, there was an anxiousness to Obi-Wan that I need to make this work. I need to bring Luke Skywalker over to our side and eventually train him because I'm old. I can't do this anymore. So even though he was stoic and he was very wise and fatherly and a mentor, you could sense it that they were up against the clock. There's none of that with Ahsoka's character. And that's nothing on Rosario Dawson. We've seen her give good performances in other projects before. Even in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
She was much better as Ahsoka making those cameos, or even in the Book of Boba Fett.
Well, there's not a fight that matches that fight she had in Mandalorian. Instead, we got like the zombie shitty fight scene.
I did like her first fight with Balin.
Okay. Yeah.
I like the way that they sized each other up for like 2 minutes, barely moving. I like when fighters do that. Like, we're both so good. We know what move everyone's going to make and what counters. So that was cool. But their second fight wasn't.
And Star Wars never does a good job with kids.
Another like weird subplot. What's coming out of this? He's force sensitive. I mean, shout out to Mary Elizabeth Winstead getting that check, but her character just,
What does she
you know,
wear?
she's a general.
She wears her goggles all the time when she's not doing goggle things.
I know, no,
She
she's
just
not.
but she has them.
You think she'd be like welding something
She's just
or
chilling watching TV with goggles.
playing with her chemistry set?
But yeah, I can't. I can never wrap my head around Hollywood just not being able to just do kids right.
You want to phrase that differently?
They're just always bad performances. But then you watch something like Theater Camp, which I really liked, and like wow, there actually are good kid actors out there if you actually look.
Well, I also think it's the way that they're directed. Like, I think that they get over-directed, where you expect a kid to be able to deliver these lines. Sometimes you should let the realism seep in,
Right.
and just let the kid be a kid. You know, the best kid performances you get are always when it's minimal dialogue, them just being cute and innocent, putting them in situations where you feel bad for them, or it comes down to the relationship they have with the adult. There was no chemistry between them as mother and child because it was just weird. It was just like, you know, people care about kids, and it's he's got the Force too, so that makes it interesting, right? There was a lot of stuff in this show that was new that felt amateurish. Like it was somebody who loves Star Wars, appreciates Star Wars, knows Star Wars like the back of his hand, but is not a great filmmaker or a great storyteller. I've never loved the Clone Wars series as much as other people, so I've never been one of these Dave Filoni fanboys. But people love him, and people have been pushing for this for a long time. But like I said, from a narrative standpoint and a writing standpoint, it felt very weak.
You know what's a good kind of within the Star Wars universe, like a good, I think is a good kind of comp of like how you make something interesting and how you just fail upon that and just how flat it comes off is like if you look at Andor, the whole aspect of people still loyal to the Republic, right? And like, but how they had to kind of use these back channels and be so secretive and kind of create this kind of tension that comes off of, you know, trying to sneak around and still have your ideals and hold your values while everything around you seems to be falling apart. And now you flip that where you still have these Empire loyalists on the other side. That was kind of just like there that you just never really played off of, but like you made it a point to show that, oh yeah, people are still loyal to the Empire. But like you said, with like the lack of tension, lack of build-up, nothing really came from that, and it really was just
there were a lot of duds. It was like when you set off a firework and it sparks, and it goes out. That's what a lot of these storylines felt like, that there was potential to build off of something there, and then it sort of fizzles out. It was a lot of, this is cool, right? The Death Troopers are the worst example of that. Zombie troopers. That's something that could have been done in an interesting way. If you put somebody in a situation where it's like a dark basement or a dark dungeon, and you don't have a lightsaber or you don't have the Force, where it actually takes something out of you to get out of this situation where you think it's going to be life or death. There was nothing in this series that felt life or death for any of these characters.
And I do wish, like, when you go to a different galaxy within the Star Wars universe, like, that kind of intrigued me. Like, it kind of was just like, oh, wow, I didn't know this was, like, a thing or possible.
I loved the space whales, and I knew that was something that went bad to Rebels, but I thought visually that did look awesome. I thought it was a very cool concept, the idea of, you know, these just whales in the sky, and they're, you know, big Force daddies.
Yeah, that's...
And you don't have to bang on them for them to go to hyperspace. You know, they just do it. Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, when people have to like get out of situations flying the ship, it kept making me think of Han Solo. And I was like, yo, none of them got that juice like Han Solo, man. Talk about getting out of a sticky situation. I don't think anybody in fictional history has gotten out of more sticky situations than Han and Chewie.
I did like the robot. He grew on me.
He was fine, voiced by David Tennant, but it's like another wisecracking robot.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I guess. He was kind of mean.
He was really
very
mean.
honest. Yeah.
Sometimes you got to be brutally honest. This is going to be a crazy thought, and I know this, like, there are things like this within the anime and Clone Wars and Rebels, but like, I know we're in a world with like the Force and Jedi. I feel like witches are a little weird to me. It's like, oh, what? We have witches in here?
Yeah, and that is...
Even though we have, like, essentially space wizards and there's so much fantastical elements, but, like, I don't know, witches kind of seem off to me. I know a lot of it ties and has been, like,
No, I get it, because I always used to
part
say
of the
that.
Star Wars universe too. But even the stuff with like the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, no, that's us. But like, you know what I'm talking about? Like,
Yeah, I think the
different
sister
planes
lives
of like
into Ahsoka. Yeah.
fantastical elements.
Well, like people always say, time travel should never be a part of Star Wars.
But I think we're like headed towards that, or we're like it's not out of the realm of possibility.
No, it isn't. And people were complaining, oh, Filoni introduced time travel to Star Wars. What the fuck? But it's not exactly that.
And it's ridiculous because like also the whole her Force ability to recreate what happened there before, like that kind of makes sense, even though it probably doesn't. Like I could see that.
Yeah, I don't hate that.
It's like Batman from Arkham,
yeah. But Star Wars is more fantasy than sci-fi, and obviously it's got a lot of sci-fi elements. But it would be like, we should do time travel in Lord of the Rings. It's like, no, it's just weird. It's Middle Earth. You have enough there to mine. It's the same thing with Star Wars. You don't really need time travel. It's a big, big, big galaxy. But if it all depends on if it's done well. Like if they introduce just a brilliant, which they never will, exploration of time travel in the Star Wars universe, and sure, fine. I didn't mind that. I
kind of like just the fantasy
the
elements.
concepts are good, but what they're doing, it's like rehashing shit we've already seen without it.
Well, like, again, this is just like a weird preference I have in my head. Like, I just like when the fantasy stuff is just solely based on like the Force and the Jedi and the Sith. Like, that just separates them from everything else. And then everybody else, like obviously there are like huge sci-fi elements and things that are just absurd but kind of make sense within their world, but true fantasy elements just kind of reserved to that portion.
Yeah, I've always said that Jedi are wizards. They're space wizards. They have their magic. The amount of things that you can do with the Force, it is supernatural at a certain point. So when you introduce other supernatural beings, it gets into a gray area of what's the difference between their magic and the Force. And Marvel has that problem for some people. They complain that Thor's magic is just advanced science, whereas Doctor Strange is supernatural. So then it becomes, why can't Thor's magic just also be supernatural? And I think that's where you get into that territory when you introduce the witches. And once again, when they showed up and they resurrected the troopers, just I was totally checked out by that point. And the fight between Ahsoka and terrible. That was choreographed to be as clean as it could possibly be. There was not one moment where I thought any of those characters were exerting actual energy. So slow. The worst type of Star Wars fight. And my favorite duel ever is Empire, Luke, Vader. I don't mind slow, but I need some force behind it. I need some emotion. Like I'm trying to kill this motherfucker. And with Vader, I'm taunting this guy because he's not in my class type of thing. There was you don't get any of those feelings for any of these action scenes. Yeah. At least for me.
Well, it's like even the original Obi-Wan Darth Vader duel.
Right. That one is bad, but it's because what's behind it.
What's surrounding it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I felt the prequels lost it a little bit, where it became style over substance. Not all of them, but
at some points, yeah, maybe they did go too far with the stylization, but some of them I liked the fights at the very least.
One of the things I'll give the sequel like trilogy is I think the fights were that nice middle ground, where it was a blend of some of the cool things you can do while you're with all the Jedi powers, while also keeping it somewhat realistic, and you're not twirling around and spinning every 2 seconds.
Yeah, you can argue Force Awakens, Last Jedi, 2 of the best. Some people would say 2 of the best, both with Rey and Kylo. What else was I going to? Oh, I thought it would have been cool. I'm not so upset about this, but a friend reached out and was like, why doesn't Ezra use the lightsaber? I'm like, oh, it's because he's become enlightened. He doesn't need it. He's reached, peak Jedi, nirvana. And the next episode, he's fighting with a lightsaber. I thought that would be cool. Like, I don't need it anymore. Kind of like what Luke did in The Last Jedi, but then he picks up the saber and starts fighting with it. Another, the reunion between him and Sabine, where they're reminiscing over the finale of Rebels or the last time that they saw him in Rebels. A lot of it's just falling flat. And I don't think even having watched those shows would have made it that much better for me, because it feels like it just feels lazy. The audience knows what this is and what happened between them, so just showing them is enough, and it's not.
Well, I think it goes back to or if you want to look at it from somebody who is invested with Clone Wars and Rebels, well, it's would you watch the third movie of a trilogy without watching the first two? Or obviously there are things you're going to miss, but also making the jump to live action and including it into a new Disney plus Disney Star Wars verse, like you got to understand that there is a little bit of separation when it comes to new audiences and the old guard. But like even then, if I were to watch a third movie, like what's a great third movie? If I were to watch Return of the King without seeing the first two, I think you would be like,
I want to go back and watch those first two.
yeah, and like, oh, this is very well done. And like, yeah, maybe I'm missing out on some of the character moments here, but like, I can still kind of enjoy this. And there's probably a ton of people who just watched the third one and went to the movies when it was out and haven't seen the first two, but like...
Oh yeah, that happens all the time, dude. Endgame, Infinity War, perfect examples. I know many people who hadn't seen those other movies. They were like, yeah, that movie was fire. Yeah. Big purple guy wants the powerful stones. It works for me. And everyone's like, no, but you have to see, you're not going to understand.
And sure, that would add to an experience. Right. And I think that would set a certain baseline of where somebody, of an enjoyment level of somebody investing all their time into the previous things that came before it, and probably there's a baseline of level of enjoyment where like, yeah, I'm seeing all my favorite characters back together and this is kind of cool for me. And if that's the case, then that's cool. But like,
I've seen it work for a lot of people in that way. Yeah. I just think from my perspective, if I had added knowledge, I may like this show even less because I would be disappointed by how they use these characters. Because I really don't, that is a problem, that they're relying too much on projects, movies, shows from the past. But the bigger problem is that these characters suck. There's just no personality here. There's minimal personality. And you come to Star Wars for, the warmth between them, the friendship, the camaraderie of the gang, and the spectacle of it all, and the emotion, because it is a pulp Saturday morning cartoon. And this felt like it looked like what Star Wars is supposed to look like. But we always go back to it. Does it feel like Star Wars? To me, it's very hollow. There's a shell there. But once you peek in the inside, there's nothing there for you to grab hold of. Like I said, just trying to think back on these 8 episodes, it's a fucking blur. Like when you even mentioned the Empire sympathizers, I was like, oh yeah, that happened. Totally forgot about it. What's her face's kid, Syndulla. I was like, oh yeah, she had a kid who can sense things. Yeah, it was just I was the Homelander meme by episode 5.
Kid Ahsoka also played Kid Gamora.
Oh shit! Wow,
yeah.
That's cool.
Nice little
getting those Disney checks. Yeah,
yeah. She's just good at playing kids, younger versions of existing characters.
That was that one girl who's played like Brie Larson as a kid, and she was also in Hill House as a kid, and she's played like a bunch of them. All right, guys, before we get to the second half of this episode, we're going to take a quick break to shout out a couple of our sponsors. And our first sponsor would be Fume, and Aaron's got a quick little message from them.
Well, quitting is hard, as you know, and cold turkey may be great on sandwiches, but there's a better way to break your bad habits. And we're not talking about some weird mind voodoo from your crazy neighbor. Do you have any voodoo crazy neighbors?
I don't think so. No. They're crazy, but not with voodoo.
Reminds me of Mr. Deeds when Steve Buscemi's confuses the mailman waving.
I haven't seen those movies.
Oh, well, they're really good. You should break that habit and start getting on your old school Sandler game. But we're talking about our sponsor, Fume, and they look at the problem in a different way. Not everything in a bad habit is wrong, so instead of drastic, uncomfortable change, why not just remove the bad from your habit?
Sounds good.
Instead of electronics, Fume is completely natural. Instead of vapor, Fume uses flavored air. And instead of harmful chemicals, Fume uses all natural, delicious flavors. You get it. Instead of bad, Fume is good. It's a habit you're free to enjoy and makes replacing your bad habit easy. Your Fume comes with an adjustable airflow dial and is designed with movable parts and magnets for fidgeting, giving your fingers a lot to do, which is helpful for de-stressing and anxiety while breaking your habit. Well, he actually gave me one, and, I always figured it's like, I've tried these different devices to try to break habits before, but this one's actually pretty, surprised by how different it is.
Yeah, flavored air. What's that like? It's just air that has a flavor?
No, the taste is like, when I first tried it, it was a little weird at first, but once you get used to it, it's actually like quite refreshing. It's wow. Because the other stuff, it still feels like it's bad. This kind of is more natural, I feel like.
It looks cool too. It looks sleek. I like a good sleek design.
It is, and it has like a little magnet so you can fidget with it. Yeah, you know how I fidget.
I just be
touching things.
You banging on the table.
I'll just have my hand in my pocket and just like opening it up and closing it all day.
Hand in other people's pockets.
Only when I'm robbing them.
That was what I was implying.
I'm sorry, I'm watching Sopranos too much.
Next sponsor is Gabagool.
And it's like a nice little wooden, and it's small. It's very sleek, like you said.
Yeah.
And it looks cool. I'm a big aesthetics guy, so.
Me too, yeah.
Well, stopping is something we all put off because it's hard, but switching to Fume is easy, enjoyable, and even fun. Fume has served over 100,000 customers and has thousands of success stories, and there's no reason that can't be you. Join Fume in accelerating humanity's breakup from destructive habits by picking up the Journey Pack today. Head to tryfume.com and use code NERDSOUP to save 10% when you get the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com and use NERDSOUP to save an additional 10% off your order today.
That's for the fan to decide.
Yay!
People you call up to the show, you better be ready. That's what you're supposed to do. Sitting there arguing and you're trying to spell your name and all of this other stuff. It's not your show, it's my show. I'm giving you the opportunity to speak your mind. Don't call up here unless you got something to say.
Yeah, well, we also asked for some questions, so you just want to go into some Ahsoka fan questions?
Yeah.
This question here from Doe Rose. Do you guys like or hate that Filoni is trying to connect this movie to all these shows to the movies? And I think she's also implying the inevitable team-up movie with Mando and Boba Fett and Ahsoka.
That's actually going to happen, right?
Yeah, that's in the cards.
Mm-hmm.
It was somebody wrote a fake Wikipedia post about how it came out and it bombed and it started the new Hollywood revolution where studios pulled back on all these big budgeted IP franchises and we had a golden age of independent cinema. That this could be the one that all the House of Cards comes crashing down. Because it's going to be a movie about shows that nobody watched, about shows that are about shows that nobody watched. And then they're going to make a movie and nobody has seen those shows.
Who's going to carry that movie? But between Ahsoka, Mandalorian, and Boba Fett, who's like...
Bo-Katan.
Yeah,
Baby Yoda.
I mean, you need not one of those people can like... I mean, I guess...
Did you finish Mando season 3?
No.
Okay, so...
I made it to the last episode, just had no desire to watch the last one.
Bo-Katan becomes the new main Mandalorian, right?
Could be. I literally made it to the finale and it was just like...
Yeah, I think that's the
I'll
direction
watch it.
they're going. So they replaced their main character. They replaced the main character in his own show with another Mandalorian. So, but like you said, yeah, I don't know who's...
There's no natural lead to
No,
any
you don't
of
have a
those
lead
characters.
singer. No, you don't have a point guard.
Luke?
Oh, yeah, no, that's exactly... Yeah, that's what the plan is. Those are the rumors. That Luke, Leia, and Han Solo will be in it de-aged.
No actor. No young actors.
No.
Just get Alden Ehrenreich back and don't even do it, actually.
This question here from Drawn Jeff. Do you guys think Sabine should have gotten off the hook so easily after causing Thrawn to return? Yeah, that's another... It goes back to my criticisms where you would think there would be something there. There would be some sort of personal consequences to her actions there, and there are none.
And Ezra, like, he seems cool, I guess, but, like, he's not destroy the galaxy worthy. Like Han Solo, you risk that shit.
Right, and it's... Exactly, yeah, I agree with that. But it's all if they would have done a better job of establishing how much he just means to them personally, which is, yeah, maybe some of the added knowledge of who he is. But I know Ezra. I remember all the, where's Ezra? Ezra's alive, blah, blah, blah. And all the bullshit with Ahsoka. Is Ahsoka alive? No, she's actually, she's dead. No, she's alive again.
Was that like a big moment for people? Like Ezra's actually alive?
I think so, yeah. Well, because even in Mandalorian, she sort of hints that she's looking for him. So that was like a...
Think he had sex with any of those turtles? I'm there for a long time.
Oh, I like the turtles. Yeah, I like the turtles. God, I hope not. I hope he's more self-control than that. Just...
I don't know.
Come on, man. You're a sick fuck. This question here, fun question from Pablo. If you had the Force, would you turn Sith or Jedi?
I'd follow Shin, whatever she wants to do.
Who's Shin again?
Whatever she's about.
Oh, Shin.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's another one. Cool look to her. Looks crazy, unhinged, almost like Harley Quinn as a Jedi. You just look like she can snap at any moment and just rip your head off.
That's what I like.
And you might enjoy it, sure. Yeah. But everybody was going crazy over her, and I'm like, yo, she's fine.
Oh, she's just hot.
Yeah, that always does help. This question here from MC Spoons. Are any of these shows worth it? Well, in what way? Culturally? Intellectually? Financially? maybe no to all three.
That's how I decide if I'm going to choose a life of like good and helpfulness or just pure evil. Just no. Who's hotter?
Who's hotter?
Yeah.
There's something to that in the real world.
Yeah.
Pretty privilege.
What was the question?
Or are any of these shows worth it?
If you're...
Yeah, if you're into the wars, if you're in it.
Yeah.
Like one of our listeners, Shane Lisa, shout out to Shane, reached out and he was like, "Oh, have you seen Ahsoka?" I'm like, "No, I haven't seen it yet. What do you think?" And he's like, "Well, I'm a Star Wars lifer, so I'm in it forever."
I'm gonna watch, unless it's the last episode of Mandalorian, which I don't know why I never watched it, because I didn't really hate that either. I don't think I really hated this show either. Like, I just put it on and it was just, took up 35 minutes, and after that I really didn't think about it.
Yeah, I think hate is a strong word. I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it, but I'm not like, I hated Ahsoka. What the hell were they doing? They just, they made a crummy show, in my opinion. And for other people, they liked it, so. This question here from Dylan. Do you wish they would have focused the plot more around Baylan and Shin? It had so much potential. I actually love that idea. Yeah, I think that could have been really fascinating if it wasn't an Ahsoka show. It was just called The Dark Jedi, and it's about their relationship and their philosophies, because there were a couple of moments between them that I really enjoyed, like when she asked him about his life at the Jedi Temple, and he was reflecting on it. I thought that was a solid scene.
Well, I also wish it was more of an Ahsoka show, maybe, if there was more of, if she was more of the focus. Like, she's just not in an episode, right?
Maybe.
Like, she just shows up at the end, and they're like, ooh, that was another thing I didn't like. Talk about nudge, nudge, when the robot's telling her a story, one of the stories.
In a galaxy far, far away.
I hated that.
Yeah, that was stupid.
It's actually kind of neat, too, when you think about it, though. But it made me groan out loud.
You're a weird guy. just can never peg where you are, where you stand on things.
No, the C-3PO actually pissed me off.
Oh my god, you're just a fucking. There's something with you with C-3PO. You just have something against him. He's loyal. He knows all the languages. He cleans up everybody's mess. He interprets for R2. What do you want from him?
He's annoying.
Yeah, he's a little annoying. So what? We all have a little annoying
Let me
friends.
look at my friends one last time. You barely know them.
Oh my god, they've known each other for years.
Year.
That's enough. I've met people. I think I've known them forever. There was some guy I met in. His name was Teddy. Guy I met in Europe, Italian. And he liked anime. I was like, we just found a new Teddy.
Hell yeah.
But he was kind of like skinny and didn't have the same goofy build. He's goofy in a different way, Teddy's like a goofy brute. So I was like, it's different. I don't know if the fans will, they'll warm up to you. New Teddy.
Do they have an accent?
Yes. And it was, in my head, I was like, yo, it really is just the accent. They really just talk that way.
You know what I hate? Never mind. This is going to be a whole tangent.
I mean, that's why the mics are on.
Well, it's like Long Island Italians.
Okay, yeah. Let's just take another question.
I just don't like how they tell you, like, oh, if you say mozzarella, no, it's mozzarella. No, it's not. Just because it fucking pisses me off.
This question here from Yo, It's Flo. Were you guys originally fans of the Ahsoka character going into the show? I've been sort of indifferent. Like, I never loved the Clone Wars as much as other people, so I feel like your love for Ahsoka hinges on your love for those shows, because she was such a big part of them. Fine. I'm not like John Campea when he had that rant about Filoni bringing Ahsoka into live action, or Ahsoka beating Darth Maul in a duel and he lost his mind. I was like, yo, I can't get this upset about a fictional character winning a fight, but...
I think from and I've watched like I said, I've sporadic episodes, but I watch a lot of clips online. I've always just liked her presence, especially with the Anakin character. And from the little I've seen, compare Anakin Clone Wars to Anakin in the prequel trilogy. Much more delightful.
Oh yeah, it's like a different
Wars.
character,
Yeah.
honestly.
And I've kind of liked that dynamic and kind of what she means to Anakin and kind of how it brings him. And I don't know, like I said, I'm not really sure if that's just the way he is around her, or if that's just how they redid the character because of how the negative reaction he got from people from the original trilogy. So it's like, oh, maybe let's bring some life into this character.
Right.
And I will say, for Hayden Christensen, this is the best Anakin has ever been in live action, I do think, as a character.
Right, yeah.
From just a little bit we got from him, just his personality, the way he talks and the way he acts.
This question here from Doolin. Did Ahsoka or the Kenobi series have better lightsaber fights and action sequences? Kenobi for me.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
I mean, say we will about Kenobi, that scene with him and Vader, I think, is pretty awesome still.
And even the scene when Vader's fighting I can't remember her name, the Sith that wants to kill Obi-Wan.
The Inquisitor?
Yeah, one of the, right. I thought that fight was awesome when Vader was just wrecking her shit and just like split her lightsaber in two and handed her one.
You know what's fucking scary? When Vader in the video game, when he comes out and just starts
terrifying.
fucking waxing people.
Yeah, when he starts running after you.
Yeah.
No, that's one of the best parts of the video game because you think like, oh, I have to fight Vader, but the objective is to run away.
Yeah.
So you can't fight this, man.
I would be insulted if I could fight and beat Vader.
Yes. Yeah, no, that was the appropriate
I would have
way to do that.
Whoever you said got mad that Ahsoka was able to beat Darth Maul, I would have that if I was able to beat Vader.
Yeah, that would have been
Like,
weird.
this shouldn't be able to happen.
Didn't that that's Kang in Ant-Man.
What?
He just got beat by a bunch of ants, and in Loki, they're trying to like build him up as this big bad villain. Meanwhile, he got his shit rocked by Ant-Man.
Yeah, and the whale.
He's going to be in Kang Dynasty, right?
That's one of my, I think that's I love that meme. The whale, we need you to distract
The
Kang.
whale.
As much as I like that movie and people didn't, I do enjoy the memes of like making fun of it.
Great memes. Somebody was asking why didn't he float away at the end of Killers of the Flower Moon?
Well, the George Bush, when they put him instead of George Bush, I think.
This question here from Matt_Sampson. What did you think about Rosario's performance as Ahsoka? As I said, there's another question here asking who gave the best performance. It's like asking, you have 5 people playing darts and they all just completely missed the bullseye. And it's like, who was closest to the bullseye? At that point, you all missed. So it doesn't matter. I don't think anybody was...
Missed the bullseye, we get a triple 20.
I thought darts was just like bullseye or nothing. I don't know darts. I don't know the rules there. Ted Lasso, though, that was a great darts game. What a moment. Yeah, there's nobody, for a lot of people, it was Ray Stevenson. And I think he's one of those guys. It was like when Michael Kenneth Williams passed away. I'm like, man, it feels like he didn't get enough out of Hollywood, that he wasn't given enough roles to show just how great of an actor he was. Because I loved Ray Stevenson. I mean, he's hilarious in The Other Guys.
He's very good in that.
And he was great in RRR just last year, as the dickhead British villain. Same thing, very two-dimensional, just evil guy. Well, not the same thing, but the stature, the presence of him as an actor, he was great. So he will be missed, but I guess by default, he's the best. And in no way am I shading him. I think that's all on Filoni. I think when it comes to the performances in this show, there was nobody who was given anything that was ever going to make it a performance that would be memorable.
Concur.
And Shin, I guess, yeah. Can't get over how just bland Sabine was as a character. They just gave her purple hair and called it a day.
Useless, actually.
Yeah. And kind of the whole gang there, but...
In no way would she just one swipe her hair and it's just a perfect cut.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, she was just like,
Oh, wow, that's funny. Yeah, it's like in a cartoon, that makes sense, This question here from Nelly. How can Disney Plus save their shows?
It is crazy how
artificial intelligence?
Yeah. Well, like when it first came out, like especially during like WandaVision into like Loki, but like recently I've had no urgency to I just skipped Secret Invasion.
Same. Miss Marvel.
I gave Miss Marvel and She-Hulk a chance. I didn't finish She-Hulk.
I liked She-Hulk. I saw 2 episodes of it. I liked it.
And then Loki. I watched the first 2 episodes of Loki, but I can't tell you I understood anything that was going on.
Especially like currently, you have Netflix dropping, and these streaming services have problems as well, but House of Usher, Flanagan.
2 years ago, I'd have been all over that.
Oh, you're not a Flanagan guy anymore?
I am, but like...
I mean, it's a great show. That's
I'll
the
watch
point
it
I'm making.
I'll watch it.
House of Usher, fantastic. Gen V on Amazon Prime.
Haven't gotten to that yet either.
Well, I mean, that's you got to figure some stuff out. In the general sense, when people are thinking, what show am I going to watch? It's trending towards these other shows because there's something new. There's something different about it. And Gen V is very similar to The Boys, but you kind of think that you're going to see something that it's going to challenge you a bit and it's going to entertain you in ways that were unexpected. When it comes to some of these Star Wars and Marvel shows, you've always said it, cookie cutter. It's becoming more and more cookie cutter, and there's no surprise anymore. With WandaVision, we were like, yo, this is like a new direction for the MCU. This is where they need to go. We start experimenting, trying new things. And then they didn't do that much after WandaVision. Moon Knight, I thought, had great potential for that as well, and then it turned out to just be same old shit.
About how bad that got.
People hated us for not liking it, but I think a lot of people ended up turning on Moon Knight. Oscar Isaac recently said it was the best thing he's ever done.
I'll never forget when I think someone actually re-brought this up like a week ago when it's like, what's his name? Fucking
Feige?
Feige was like, we're not holding back on this one. This is going to be brutal, and we're going to show it. And they just didn't show it.
No, they literally didn't even show it, yeah. I just want to point out for the audience, you were making a hat motion to try and describe who you were talking about.
I was going to... Filoni kept coming to my mind. I'm like, that's not Filoni. That's two different people.
What was just scrapped by Feige? Didn't he scrap a show and was like, we're going to do this from the ground up? I could have swore that he canceled something. Did Echo ever come out?
That's another thing they got to stop doing, is taking these side characters that like
Agatha?
People liked for one episode and devoting a whole series to them. If we like Echo and you want to make her a bigger part of like another Hawkeye or Daredevil or something like that. Same thing with Agatha. Don't just make a new series. No one's going to watch that.
Well, Blade is being rewritten again. Did you see that?
Yeah.
It's like the 4th time that this has happened. But like when it comes to how can they fix their shows, man, it's just do shit like Andor. Like get skilled filmmakers, let them do their things. It doesn't always have to cater to one specific
and also
aesthetic and style.
Certain characters are secondary characters for a reason. You might love a secondary character. It doesn't mean we need a whole thing devoted to them. They're just good showing up in other things. And they add to that. Like Wanda for all these years. And I did like WandaVision, but like her being a consistent presence throughout, like every time I felt like she was in something, like I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then she was just being used in the Avengers movies, but then in Doctor Strange, like something like that, where don't get rid of this character and we can learn more, but you don't have to necessarily, well, there was WandaVision. Like maybe even Hawkeye. So let them just show up every now and then in other things.
Yeah, they definitely
Do we need, like, a Hawkeye series.
Right. They got too excited.
To introduce Kate Bishop, but so not my point is not every character needs to be branched out and have their own little thing. Because sometimes we like them as supporting roles and other things, and that's okay too.
Yeah, Nick Lester asks, is it possible to make a more nostalgia bait show? That's another thing that they need to stop doing, man. It's okay to sprinkle it in. You can have nostalgia. First season of Stranger Things is the perfect example.
But it's nostalgic in style and setting, not necessarily... I feel like the nostalgic elements of these are like, let's just try to recreate things that we've already done.
Yeah, it's just lazy. It's more lazy. So they need to... You got to resist that, man. There's none of it in Andor. None. Some, but not a lot. So I think that's the good way to go about it.
But Andor was like cool nostalgia. Like having them in the prison camp build a Death Star. That's a perfect tie-in.
Right. Yeah, exactly. There are ways to do it where it's cool and it still feels new for the audience in a way. Like something you never thought of. Like, oh, prisoner slaves were probably used to create a lot of the shit the Empire was using. That's interesting. We'll take a few more here. This question here from Sugg. Has the novelty of seeing previously animated scenes and characters in live action worn off? Well, I saw some people who really liked the cartoon saying that it never felt like they were actually watching those characters in live action. I mean, that's why I tend to say animation is just the best medium, because you can create somebody who has tentacles on their head and orange skin and you don't think twice about it. Because you just have so much more freedom, and it's not always going to translate as well.
Even watching One Piece, like I liked the show, but then I started watching anime, I'm like, oh, this is just much better.
Right. It's difficult, you know, and I understand why they want to bring those characters. I understand why Filoni does, because those are characters he essentially created along with George Lucas, but he was the one developing them and, you know, writing them for all those years. I don't know if it made an impact to where now people want them to be in live action all the time, because that's what you're trying to do here. You're trying to appease the people that are already familiar and trying to bring new fans in and saying, oh, these characters are cool. I can understand why people like them for so long. I don't think this show does that at all. I don't think anybody comes out of the show like, I love Ezra's my favorite, or Sabine, she's so cool, or Syndulla, why does she have goggles all the time? People are probably saying that last one, but this question here from Hollister Nick. Do you guys think the show's lack of natural locations harmed it? To me, the world felt very small. I mean, that's another problem that's just kind of littered throughout Hollywood. It's people get lazy and the volume, it's almost like the worst thing that's ever been created.
We're in a weird place with that.
Yeah, like the Batman used it brilliantly.
Yeah.
And the Mandalorian. And other times it's just...
you can tell.
You can tell, yeah. It looks very fake.
And I think we're on the, obviously it is pretty crazy, the technology of the volume and what goes into it and everything. But I feel like we're still at the place where it's not going to be able to be perfected across, like you said with the Batman, or in certain instances where you donate, where you allocate enough resources and everything, it can be, but it's not to the place where you can get away with it. Well, you can get away with it, but if it's not used correctly, or if it's not not enough time's put into it, or it's not enough effort or money into it, then it's the baseline is pretty low. Where it's I guess the same thing with CGI and animation. It's you get out what you put into it. But I think in the future it's going to be something 20 years down the line where we'll look back even to something like this and be like, wow, this is worse than we remember, just because how it might look, or the potentials you have with this technology.
Yeah, I don't think that people realize how poorly some of these shows are going to age, at least in my opinion, because they're not making any impact. It's here today, gone tomorrow type of storytelling, which is very unfortunate, because that's one thing you can't say about the prequels. We mocked them at the time because they were so bad, but they left a legacy. I mean, the memes, the way they've been memed to death, the quotes, whether you thought they were hilariously bad or just hilarious, it's all stuck around, dude.
But look at the things that hold up, like Lord of the Rings, perfect example. Why does it hold up? Because it's real. They really got a...
That is the shadow of Lord of the Rings looming over Hollywood is so embarrassing for some of these franchises. They're 20 years old now. And it's just, you watch the Fellowship of the Ring, it's this is still the best movie that's come out of, what's the word? Big budgeted movies in Hollywood. The blockbusters. There's a fucking word for it. I can't think of it. But yeah, it just puts all these movies to shame. Even some of the biggest budgets you only get those types of quality films when it's Nolan doing it, or Scorsese. Killers of the Flower Moon is stunning to look at. It's so painterly, it's so soft, and the lighting, it's brilliant. Mm-hmm. And same thing with Oppenheimer. It's just beautiful to look at. And then most of the times it's significantly lower budgets. In the case of Oppenheimer, $100 million budget. Or Blade Runner. But a lot of these big tentpole movies, that was the phrase I was looking for. Yeah, when it comes to tentpoles, Lord of the Rings franchise puts everybody to shame. It's fucking embarrassing. Is there a Marvel movie that's come out, or a DC movie that looks better than Fellowship? I really don't think so.
Maybe...
There's some in the discussion.
Wait, what is the best looking Marvel movie?
Just not even going MCU, Marvel all around. I guess, Spider-Verse is animation, so it's different. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's with DC, the Nolan Batman movies, maybe.
I mean, I tell you what, even go back to the first Iron Man, all the way there, the movie looks pretty good.
Yeah, no, it does. All right, we'll take one more question here. We'll end on a fun one. This question here from Edgar. Who's the biggest baddie in Star Wars? Aliens only.
Ooh. Aren't they all aliens?
Yeah, I guess. That was the first thought that went into my head. Technically, they'd all be aliens.
Well, tentacles and...
Yeah, gotta have something. There's something. Extra limb, tentacle.
Yeah, green.
3 eyes, yeah, green. I mean, I love Mary Elizabeth Winstead, so I'm gonna say Syndulla. Shout out to my boy Ewan. I'm trying to think of who are the other bad aliens.
I know there's one I'm missing.
Yeah, I guess Ahsoka's up there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just one that's unnecessarily, just a random,
well,
who's the green one from Attack of the Clones?
Oh, God, I don't even know who the fuck that is. Yeah. I don't even think she's in
I recognize it from Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, I'm just going to go Padme. if we're doing everybody's an alien.
Ooh, this is hard, like a hot Darth Maul. Oh, here's Lady Yoda.
What's her fucking name again?
Yaddle.
Yaddle, yeah. Yeah. When you said the green one in Attack of the Clones, that's what I was thinking of. Are you talking about Yaddle? Be respectful.
This is just Ahsoka, but like...
Yeah, no, that when I looked it up, I was
enhanced.
like, hottest aliens in Star Wars, it was all just like fan art of Ahsoka. You know, Plo Koon.
Just a stacked ass Ahsoka.
Kit Fisto. Remember Kit Fisto? He was the tentacle guy. He was green too. He gets smoked by Palpatine when Mace Windu ran up on him.
Oh, yeah. I think this is just a girl Kit Fisto. Yeah, it's Kitty Fisto.
Oh,
that's
God. Kitty Fisto.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
So.
She got an OnlyFans? All right, guys. That does it for our review of Ahsoka. We're planning on recording a fan question podcast and answering more of these Ahsoka questions.
There's a 10-minute YouTube video on the top 10 Star Wars sexiest races, excluding humans.
Oh. Yeah, maybe Star Wars does need to end. It's gotten to a point where it's too far, right? It's just too far. It's just too much.
I just want to, before we end, I just need to look up something. Yeah, it's been done. Lady Thanos.
Oh, yeah, come on. You can find fan art for anything your mind can imagine, dude. Like, type in sexy Professor X. I guarantee there's some fan art of him and Magneto making out.
Not just him, but he's jacked. Is that really a sexy Professor X?
But yeah, like I said, you can
still no sexy Professor X.
Check out our Fan Question Ahsoka podcast on our Patreon that we will be recording and uploading. And yeah, thank you for joining us on this episode. You can comment your thoughts down below. And like the video, subscribe.
Hell yeah. Typed in sexy Professor Oak. Now they got it.
Yeah, talk about another weird fan base. Can you just send that to Teddy without any context?
Just Ditto in the background.
Oh, goodness. What is Ditto?
Oh, yeah,
I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
Yo, what are people doing to their Dittos out there?
Yeah. Wow, that was probably our best review yet. Hey guys, Aaron the Nerd Soup Monkey here with a brief shameless plug before we end the video. Do you ever feel like you don't have an adequate amount of nerd soup in your life? Like you're going to bed hungry and yearning for the nonsensical yet entertaining nutrients our podcasts provide? Well, we've come up with the perfect solution. The Nerd Soup Fan Question Podcasts, exclusively available to our Patreon supporters. You can sign up now by visiting patreon.com/nerdsoup, and for the price of only $1 per month, you'll receive exclusive access to our weekly podcast where we answer your questions that don't make it to the main show. And while you're there, you can check out the other rewards we offer to our patrons, like stickers, mugs, t-shirts, behind-the-scenes footage, and appearing in the credits at the end of our videos. And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. Roll the names of the nerds who make Nerd Soup possible. The reason why the crypto crash didn't send our lives spiraling down a black hole of no return. Alright, I'll stop talking so you can listen to this jazzy-ass music while checking if Beau spelt your name wrong in the credits.